It's Friday, September 18th, 2020. I'm Greg Nibbler, and this is Digital Trends Live. Hello, everyone. This is Digital Trends Live. I'm Greg Nibbler, and again, thank you for joining us wherever you are. We appreciate it. We broadcast live here every weekday, 9 a.m. Pacific, noon Eastern, bringing you trending tech headlines, news, interviews, discussions, and more. And let's get started with some news. TikTok and WeChat will officially be banned from the app stores in the United States starting on September 20th. This coincides with the deadline set forth with the pair of executive orders issued by President Trump that stipulated the U.S. interests of TikTok be sold to a U.S.-based company. The potential deal submitted to the Commerce Department earlier this week involved ByteDance, the parent company of TikTok, selling a portion of its operations to Oracle, which would classify them as a so-called tech partner. That apparently was not enough to satisfy the order. The ban means that both Google and Apple will need to remove the apps from their stores on Sunday. So the rulings are a little different for each app. For TikTok, if users already have the app downloaded before that date, it should still function as normal for now, but updates will not be available going forward. There was also a separate ruling setting a date of November 12th for TikTok, after which it would ban any U.S. company from providing internet hosting services and a number of other restrictions, which means it could leave a window for further negotiation on the sale. For WeChat, however, which is owned by China-based company Tencent, it would appear that the ban and the additional restrictions both go into place on September 12th, which means that the messaging app may not function at all after Sunday. So there's still a lot of details and explanations as to how all of this directly plays out to be known, but Trump is expected to make a statement on it today. Of note, there are about 19 million active WeChat users in the US and a reported 100 million users for TikTok. We'll keep you up to date on all of the details at digitaltrends.com. Social media sites have made active attempts to quell the spread of misinformation on their platforms to varying degrees of success, but Twitter has now posted the results of some of their efforts to stop policy violations. So Twitter specifically highlighted the action it's taken against the far-right conspiracy group Q-Anon. In July, in addition to removing thousands of actual accounts, they also began removing posts that promoted them or their false information from trends and recommendations, resulting in a decrease of impressions by 50% across the platform. This goes in lockstep with other moves the company's made as we approach the election, which include banning political advertising and flagging or even taking down tweets that contain blatant misinformation about voting or coronavirus, particularly from political candidates. Now, this shows that content moderation can work when trying to reduce the amount of hate speech and abuse on platforms, but it also hasn't gotten rid of it. There's still plenty of posts touting ridiculous claims on Twitter and, of course, on other social media platforms, but it's a start. You can read more about it at digitaltrends.com. As we build toward a future of autonomous cars, there are some unique designs from a number of companies that showcase possible use cases. And a German company called the German Aerospace Center is the latest, and they've released a video of their prototype called the U-Shift. So the entire vehicle runs on what would be an autonomous base, which makes it extremely modular. They mentioned how it could be used for transportation by placing a bus-like add-on on the back. You could also turn it into a delivery system or use it in warehouses. They even mentioned a use case as a traveling sales room. The actual prototype they showcased is still run on remote control, as the logistics of full autonomy are still being worked out. In addition to the tech, there are a lot of regulations and standards that would need to be worked out as well. So the company plans on testing this version of the U-Shift in a variety of scenarios, working toward a fully autonomous version that could reach 40 miles an hour in a few years. The potential for autonomous vehicles is wide open, and you can read more about it at digitaltrends.com. So, want to know where I'll be in 2023? Well, a new reality show is currently being developed called Space Hero, which will end up sending a contestant on a 10-day trip to the International Space Station. Space Hero is being created by a US-based production company called Propagate, and they plan on a worldwide search for contestants who are everyday people, everyday show hosts who have a love and interest in space exploration. Those contestants will then undergo extensive physical and mental training as part of the show. The culmination of it will involve a worldwide broadcast where viewers can vote on who they want to send to space. And the show will chronicle the winner from launch to return as they head to the ISS for 10 days to work alongside astronauts, and that trip is slated for 2023. So there's no word on when or how the casting for the show will begin, but if you know anyone that's involved, please send them my way, like now, because I really want to win this thing. But you can read more about the contest at digitaltrends.com. All right, we do keep you up to date on all kinds of things here at Digital Trends, and that includes future tech that could change how we operate, and I'm talking about energy storage. And so joining us right now, we have the one and only Luke Dormel to talk about this. He's got an article coming out here over this weekend, and we're going to kind of cover what it is that Luke is talking about with this. Luke, number one, it's so good to see you. But number two, where do you want to start with this? What is this article really about?
Absolutely, yeah. Let me start, first of all, with an apology. You're on my iPhone today. My computer decided to malfunction at the last moment, so that's why you've got the slightly shaky background. Quickly to launch into this, because I think this is a really fascinating topic. Everyone's familiar with the idea of sort of energy, sustainable energy. But what do you do when the sun's not shining, so can't power your solar panels? What do you do when the wind's not blowing and so can't turn turbines? What you need to have is an energy storage system. And this article really was triggered by a really interesting company I found out about, which is building a demonstrator system here in the UK, in Edinburgh. It's a company called Gravitricity. I always love these names, which sort of trip off the tongue. And essentially, their idea is that they have found a way of generating of storing energy in the form of really heavy weights. So we're talking about weights 550 to 5,000 to 5,500 tons, and these are basically dropped from a great height, which then spins a winch, which feeds power into the electric grid. So it's kind of it sort of sounds like a Rube Goldberg kind of design to store energy, but it's sort of a fascinating idea that essentially you can sort of turn heavy weights into storable energy.
Yeah, that really is. I mean, and looking at this, I know there's a lot of different companies that are working on how to store this. So that one with Gravitricity, I'll never get to say it right. But going from that one, I know there's a couple of other ones too that you're going to be kind of highlighting in this.
For sure, yeah, it was an interesting piece because, as I say, I sort of launched into it covering this, and then I sort of found that there are so many other interesting, innovative ways of of storing energy. So there are things like sort of cryogenic storage, where electricity is used to cool air until it liquefies, and then the liquefied air can then be turned back into its sort of everyday gaseous state by sort of exposing it to ambient air or warming it up, and then that gas can be used to power turbines and generate electricity. Or there's hydroelectric pumped storage, which is a little bit like the Gravitricity thing, except you're using water. So you sort of pump water up a hill, you have it in what's the word I'm looking for? Sort of a dam, and then essentially when you need it, you let it go, it runs down the hill, turns turbines. So these are kind of various technologies, and there are a number of other ones I go into in the piece with sort of compressed air energy storage, all of these different ones, and there are various stages of being kind of rolled out. Some of them like hydro electric pumped storage, I think that was invented in something like 1890. So these are at kind of various stages of the kind of the rollout and the development process, but they're all kind of really fascinating ways of, as I say, solving that problem with sustainable energy, which is, how do you access it when it's not readily available? So it was an interesting piece to research.
And again, this piece comes out tomorrow, I believe, is when it goes live, kind of going through all these different ones that you researched. Like, I guess with all this too, did you find that there was actual interest from some of the major energy companies? Did they seem like this is something that they want to go toward?
I didn't delve into that much of I looked sort of briefly at the adoption. A lot of it were things like, the Gravitricity thing obviously is an incredibly kind of new idea, so they're still at the proof of concept phase with it. I think that their plan at the moment is that they're going to have this demonstrator built by the end of this year, and then they're hoping that it's going to be sort of connected to the grid by 2023. So some of these are very kind of new. As I say, things like hydroelectric pump storage is something that is already quite widely used. So there are sort of, depending on the technology, there are sort of different levels of interest in this. But I would be fascinated to, as a follow-up piece, kind of, look at sort of where these are used, kind of how widely they're used, and some of those kinds of innovations. But certainly in at least a couple of the cases, I know that compressed air energy storage There are currently two plants, one of them in Germany, and I think the other one's in Alabama. So they're already being kind of used. So as I say, I didn't delve that much kind of into the figures in terms of what sort of percentage of the overall kind of grid these represent. But certainly these aren't technologies in every case that are just science fiction ones that we may see in 20 years' time. These are things which are being used right now.
Yeah, definitely fascinating. And again, that article goes up tomorrow at digitaltrends.com, taking a look at that. And Luke, as always, it's great to talk to you. I'll let you set down your iPhone now. I'm sure that's probably
my arm is getting tired
for this shot. Yes. Well, Luke Dormel, thank you so much. Always good to see you.
Cheers. Thank you so much.
That is Luke Dormel, and he's got a lot of great articles up at digitaltrends.com. Seriously, go check them all out. Really interesting stuff, but that one in particular comes out tomorrow, so you can take a look at that then. All right, continuing on with the show, we're going to take a quick break, and then we're going to come back. We've got Eliana Murillo, who's going to join us to talk about, well, I'm just going to say this. We're going to talk about tech, but we're also going to talk about tequila. So that's coming up, so stick around. Back here in a minute with more Digital Trends Live. Welcome back to Digital Trends. I'm Greg Nibbler. Thank you very much for tuning in wherever you are. We do appreciate it. Now, in partnership with our Spanish language site, Digital Trends en Español, we are celebrating Hispanic Heritage Month by interviewing successful tech entrepreneurs like our next guest. She is the founder and CEO of Element Lab, as well as co-founder of Tequila Alquimia. We have Eliana Murillo. Hello. Thank you so much for being here with us.
Thank you so much. I'm super excited to be here.
There are so many things I want to talk to you about, including tequila. But before we get into all of that, I wanted to kind of go through a little bit of your background. You have such a unique tech background in some of the things that you've done. And maybe you could tell us a little bit about, working for Google, but then going out on your own.
Yeah, so I just left Google in July after 10 years there. Had an incredible journey. I was able to really pursue my personal mission at a really big tech company with products that allowed me to deliver this mission. So always having a goal around access, how to help underserved communities, underrepresented, underestimated communities have access to technology. So that spanned from making sure small business owners know about digital tools to helping students. And so over the course of the 10 years, I was able to carve out different roles around that. And I actually was able to, the focus for half that time was founding the multicultural marketing team. And it was just an incredible experience to bring technology into diverse communities, focusing on the US, just knowing how entrepreneurial these communities are, our communities are. And that's a big part of what inspired me to take the plunge and take a stab at it myself.
And talking about that side from the multicultural marketing side of things and just how important that is, what are some of the big obstacles that you found that some of these entrepreneurs and small business owners were encountering?
Yeah, I mean, you see it in the community. We saw it with the data. These are the fastest growing demographics of entrepreneurs. Latinos are creating businesses faster than any other demographic, Latinas especially. African American community as well is super entrepreneurial, but often the challenges are not having access to capital. We know what the VC numbers look like. The numbers are tiny in terms of what they're investing in diverse founders, female founders, and also just knowledge of marketing, digital marketing especially, what tools are out there. But I call it the paradox of opportunity. Like the fastest growing entrepreneurs, a demographic of entrepreneurs are the ones that need support, but what an opportunity. And a business like my own helped inspire a lot of the perspective I had with my family's small business, our own organic tequila company. That allowed me to have perspective at the table to really ground a lot of what we were doing, to think, okay, does a small business owner actually have time to do XYZ when they're running a business, maybe on their mobile phone? Maybe we have our business in Mexico and we're always on the move. And so how do we help entrepreneurs that are so busy building their business to actually learn how to scale it, how to market it, and so forth?
That's such a key thing right there, I think, too. It's just that, growing a business takes so much time and energy, and to not have access to some of those tools that can make that so much easier. I mean, that's a huge detriment if you don't have access. Looking at you, and I guess let's first go to your company that you kind of inspired to go out and form this company that you have, Element, and kind of talk a little bit about that, and then I want to get into some tequila as well.
Absolutely. Honestly, what really inspired me to finally take the plunge was seeing how COVID is affecting small businesses, how Black Lives Matter, that movement has really reminded us that there are a lot of problems that need to be solved. And there's a lot that I was able to do in the multicultural space at Google, but I realized there's so much more I want to do, just building my own technology as well. And so Element Lab it's like my baby. I'm super excited to start it. It's a design development lab where we're creating different platforms. And so the first is called Bodego. So Bodego is a marketplace for diverse products. It's essentially a bodega on the go, wanting to make sure we have a space where you can find products, food products created by Black and Latino business owners, and then other underrepresented groups as well. We'll be scaling that. But that's one to start. And there's a number of platforms that I want to create. I want to focus on one really well to start, but really thinking about how do we make sure that we are positioning small businesses to be accessible for more customers, for more growth. And, simply put, it's a marketplace, but there's a lot behind the scenes in terms of the AI we're implementing to really gather the insights to best position these small businesses for growth, and even making sure we're looking at what are their costs. How do we leverage social interaction of our consumer base to drive more engagement of the platform? Because the more we can create touch points for businesses to be discovered on the web, that's, especially because of COVID, we're buying things online more than ever. So I'm excited to get started with this first app, and it relates to what we've done as a business too.
Well, congratulations. Yeah, Bodego. So that is the app right there. And going from that, going to the tequila side of things, I think that's also a very interesting story of how this got founded. And I was watching actually some of your videos about this being, land that your family had used and then wasn't using. Can you tell us a little bit about what inspired you to found your tequila company?
Absolutely. It's a story we love to tell because it started as a family science project, turned into a business. So my dad's an optometrist, and he was born on the ranch, on the rancho Mexico, where he was born in Jalisco. And so he and his family came to the US when he was 4 years old and thought they were here to pursue the American dream. He did it. He went to school here and realized that when my grandfather was nearing the end of his time with us, they were going to sell the land unless they found a way to maintain it. And my mom actually convinced my dad, like, your great grandparents worked too hard to keep this land alive to just let it go. So my dad researched everything possible pre-Google, not Google searching anything, just looking into books of all different crops we could grow, and discovered that agave was a crop that could really do well where we are, where there's not a lot of rainfall and so forth. And so he did everything organically in the way that my great grandfather did this once upon a time, with more like corn and other crops. But my dad, having a background in biology, he went to Mexico, took a science kit, found a way to make the land productive, making sure the soil was healthy. And so we created this venture about growing agave and doing it organically. And the mission has always been to teach other growers how to do things organically, and really to prove that doing things organically can create a high quality product. So Tequila Alquimia became the end product after selling to other companies, brands that many people are familiar with, a lot of household names and bar names of brands. But we knew what we were doing was so special because the agave was so much healthier, had so much more sugar content, so much bigger, it just amazing. And we thought, this is too special, we need to bottle this ourselves. So alchemy is alquimia in English, and we like to say this is our form of alchemy, creating liquid gold out of all natural elements. And for us, it's about the alchemy for impact. So we contribute 20% of all of our sales to nonprofit causes we care about, social causes. We contributed to Black Lives Matter, very focused on that when everything was at the beginning of all this movement. And then we try to be responsive to what's happening. So right now we're supporting farm workers because we know they are so essential in COVID time with the fires happening in California, and trying to make sure we're supporting as best we can.
That's fantastic. I mean, but that's such a huge thing to get over. Obviously, you and your family have the skills to be able to do that, but not everybody can just go down and take land and turn it into an organic agave field. But that's incredible. And with the tequila itself, getting into that side of things, what were some of the biggest challenges, I guess, specifically because it's organic, like being organic tequila in that market space? What were some of the biggest challenges of convincing people that was something that they should try?
Yeah, well, I'll take you a step further back. People thought we were crazy for even planting agave because it had never been done in our area. So starting there, then we're saying, oh, we're doing organics. Yeah. And then they thought, okay, what are they up to? Here are these Americans now. Because for those who aren't familiar, once you're raised here, you go back, they think you're American. Here, they think you're just Mexican. So it's sort of this interesting dynamic of finding community wherever you go, right? Trying to. So in Mexico, my dad went back and really wanted to make sure we're supporting community, creating jobs through this, empowering the community locally. Our bottles are made by a family of glass blowers in Tonala, Jalisco. And so trying to keep all of that local to create more jobs and opportunity there so that we can keep families safer and produce a high quality product through that. But it was hard to convince people until they saw it. I like to believe in show, don't tell. So we just did it. My dad was called crazy for quite some time because the agave takes so many years to mature before harvest. And so we grew up going to the ranch and seeing these agaves and thinking this was sort of normal. Of course, you have a side hustle that involves planting acres of agave in another country, but it really felt like something that we could continue to demonstrate impact through because people saw the quality of the agave. Really, it's been incredible because now other growers, other people who have land have become growers, I should say. And my dad taught them free of charge. And he's considered the pioneer in organic tequila because people had never done this before in our area, and much less doing organics in the way that we did. So there's a number of brands out there that are organic, and my dad taught them how to do it. And we're proud of that. Even if it creates competition, it's for the end goal of let's just make it organically because it improves the quality of the environment. Our soil quality improves every single year. So our agaves get better and better, and I hope others do too. And it's healthier conditions for the workers. We're not spraying the fields with pesticides, herbicides, fungicides. If you're drinking tequila that's not organic, it is full of so many chemicals that are really harmful for especially the farm workers, but even for the consumer. We don't want people drinking a product that isn't reflective of what it was intended to be. Tequila is a lot like champagne for France. You can only produce it in Mexico. A lot of people don't know that. And you can only produce it in 3 parts of Mexico. So it's something that is truly a part of our culture and our heritage. And, in the spirit of Latino Heritage Month, we celebrate that every day. We're creating a product that is directly related to our heritage and trying to help people learn about it and not think it's something you just shoot back. And people often have misperceptions of what it is, but we created a sipping tequila that I hope is something people can appreciate. And it's a labor of love.
I gotta ask, where can we get it?
You can reach out to us through social media or our email contact info, and we'll send you information on how to buy it. There's also, we can't sell direct to consumer, but we have an amazing partner, Old Town Liquor in San Diego. They do amazing online sales. And so we've been getting a lot of orders from them. People are ordering from home more than ever right now.
Right? Yeah, I'm like, that's probably what I'm going to be doing after this show. So definitely want to try it out. Well, Eliana, I want to say thank you very much for joining us here on the show too, and really appreciate you talking about this, this incredible success you have across so many different fields and all the things that you are doing to help other people out. It's tremendous, and really appreciate you being here on Digital Trends Live with us.
Thank you for having me. Thank you for supporting Alquimia, and hopefully soon other products like that, family-owned, minority-owned on Bodego very soon.
Fantastic. Bodego right there. Eliana, very much appreciate you being here on Digital Trends Live. And thank you to everybody for joining us. I know I need to get to a break because we've got Caleb Dennison joining us next for an edition of Tech Briefs, where we recap some of the biggest stories in tech. That's happening next. Stick around, back here in a minute with more Digital Trends Live. Welcome back to Digital Trends Live. I'm Greg Nibbler, and it's Friday, which means it's time for Tech Briefs, where we recap some of the biggest stories in technology. And today, I've got my very special co-host here. Joining me is Caleb Dennison. Caleb, so good to see you, sir. How you doing?
Hey, I'm doing great, Greg. How are you doing this morning?
I'm doing good. Let's jump right into these because we've got a lot to get through in about 10 minutes. And we'll start off with one of the biggest things happening earlier this week, which was the Apple event. So the hardware side, they had 2 new iPads, had 2 new watches, and we've got all the details about that at Digital Trends. But one thing I wanted to focus on was the Apple One service. And that's something we weren't sure if we were going to see. So essentially it's this. It's a subscription bundle, which then there's various different ones, but it would bring Apple Music, Apple TV Plus, Apple News, Apple Arcade, and Apple Fitness Plus, which is a whole other thing that we can discuss too, but bringing them all kind of into these different bundles. And there was an immediate backlash from Spotify saying that this is once again an example of Apple being anti-competitive, and they want it to be investigated. And I guess to ask you about this, what were your thoughts on this kind of bundling of services, and do you think it is anti-competitive?
Well, I'm not surprised that Apple is bundling the services up. I mean, look, we don't really own anything anymore, do we? We don't own our movies. We don't own our music. We almost don't even own our photos. Everything's stored in the cloud. Everything's a subscription service. And Apple really does need to move to services in order to, maintain good revenue. While the new iPads and the upcoming iPhones may be super exciting from a hardware standpoint, Apple doesn't make a ton of money on those, if you can believe them. They are expensive devices to make, and once they land here in the US, there's not a huge amount of margin on the hardware. So if Apple isn't going to make its nut on the hardware, then it's definitely going to want to go to in-app purchases, and we know that there's a little bit of trouble there going on between Apple and Epic Games, for instance, but also these services. So when you have that many services and you have people that are deep in the Apple ecosystem, why not bundle them all together to make it easier to get at everything they need? I mean, this is really for Apple Power users. I think they're going to find it really handy. For those who aren't so much power users, maybe they don't want everything. I mean, I personally don't need Apple TV Plus. It's not my bag. So I still want to be able to pick and choose which services I get, but I'm not surprised to see Apple putting them all together. Now, As for whether or not this is an antitrust thing, I haven't really landed on one side or the other. I'm not surprised that Spotify is making noise. You know, Spotify and Apple Music are really the biggest competitors in the streaming music marketplace. Nobody else can really touch them. So I'm not surprised to see that Spotify is making a little bit of noise about this, but honestly, I haven't really decided whether I feel like this is an antitrust issue or not. I kind of want to see how this plays out, see how the pricing works out over the long term, and see if a whole bunch of people actually jump ship from Spotify and land on Apple Music. I just don't see that happening. I think if you're a Spotify user, you're sticking with Spotify. You're going to keep using Spotify. I don't think that all of a sudden this bundle deal is going to have you jumping ship. Not sure exactly what Spotify is worried about, but we'll have to see how that plays out over the next few weeks.
I think it's probably just the fact that because the pricing is so low to get all the, because you can get like 3 or 4 different things for the same price as Spotify, so maybe that's what they're worried about. They're like maybe thinking Apple's doing this as a loss leader just to get people onto that, but it's hard to say. I think, like you said, we'll have to see how it plays out over time. Definitely an interesting move by them going into services. All right, I know we got to get to our next topic though. The other big thing this week, well, one of them, is the Sony having their event. So last week we had Xbox, announcing their 2 consoles as far as when you could buy them. Sony finally following suit and giving us a price, $499, going to be available on November 12th, 2 days after the Xbox. Clearly these console wars are definitely heating up. PlayStation showcasing they have, Miles Morales. There's a new God of War on the way. But I guess the bottom line is I want to ask you your opinion on this. Between Xbox and PlayStation 5 with these new consoles, who do you think is kind of leading right now? And what did you think about this presentation?
Well, first of all, good luck getting a PS5. They are seemingly sold out. We know that PlayStation says they are going to be making more available, that they'll have more of these available than they had of the PlayStation 4, 7 years ago, which sold 1 million units on the first day, and I think something like 2.5 million in the first couple of weeks. So I do think that, the PlayStation 5 will come up with more units, and hopefully that you can get one. And I assume that on launch day, you'll be able to get one if you walk into a store soon enough and grab one of units that weren't actually set aside for pre-order. At least I hope that's the case, because I do believe that Microsoft is going to be prepared with plenty of Series X consoles. And in terms of like which one do I think is on top, I think if you look at the technical specifications of the Xbox Series X, it's got bigger numbers in a couple of key spaces. So I'm very enticed by the Series X. I think it's a really complete machine. Whether those tech specs turn into better gameplay, better graphics, that remains to be seen. Sometimes those tech specs the numbers don't, tell the full story. That's certainly the case in televisions, and I think that might be the case here with the game consoles. I think that what it's going to come down to is titles. I mean, really, that's what it's always come down to. Which console has the titles that you want? And then from there, I think the experience is going to be fairly similar. I think we're going to be looking at yet another generation of folks who are very married to either the PlayStation 5 or the Xbox Series X. If you've always been an Xbox person, I don't see any reason to suddenly jump ship and become a PlayStation 5 person. And the same is true vice versa. I think if you're into the PlayStation Network, you're already paying that subscription, or with Xbox Live and everything that they're doing there, you're going to want to just kind of naturally progress. They both look like excellent consoles, and I'm very excited to see what some of this next-gen gameplay looks like when the titles start coming out. And of course, the best titles will be down the road several months after developers have had a long time to work with the new hardware and maximize their games to run on that hardware. But I mean, it's exciting. This will be a really exciting holiday season. Very cool package to open up. And I'm really, really excited to see what this all looks like in the end.
I think it's definitely exciting no matter how you look at it. I do think Xbox's pricing structure with that rental kind of, not rental, but it's almost like a, that monthly fee that you can do. It's much more in the long run, but I think that could get some people in the door with that. But we've got all the details on that at digitaltrends.com. And I know we're about out of time, but something that's breaking today is this, and that is the fact that TikTok and WeChat are going to be banned from the App Store as of September 20th, at least right now, because of the fact that sale to Oracle isn't going to work. And then WeChat's just kind of getting screwed over altogether. They're going to be pretty much banned. TikTok, it sounds like there's some wiggle room. So the apps will go out of the App Store on Sunday, again, as of now. But TikTok has until November 12th for U.S. companies to sever ties with it. So as of right now, that kind of gives it a little window there to still actually complete that sale, and people can still use TikTok. They won't get the updates, but still, it's a big move. And I guess just quickly, Caleb, what do you think about this move? Do you think that TikTok is going to be gone forever?
Greg, I have been trying to wrap my head around this all morning long. I can't believe this is going down. The uproar over this,
right?
It's just going to be insane. Like, if you've got a kid under the age of 15, be prepared to have to explain to them why suddenly TikTok isn't going to work. I mean, a lot of young people, millions of young people in the U.S. alone use TikTok.
100 million monthly users in the U.S.
How many?
100 million is what TikTok is.
Yeah, like the impact is going to be massive. And I'm not sure how I am sure how I feel about this. I think it's ridiculous. The security concerns I've yet to see some real concrete data that shows that we are highly exposed. I know all this data is flowing over into China through various venues. How sensitive that data is or how they're using it, I have yet to see it proven that it's being used for nefarious purposes. I guess, sometimes it's worth erring on the side of caution, but what a huge ban. And then with WeChat, there are a lot of people in the US that use WeChat as a commerce tool with their business partners in China. To have that just suddenly cut off, it's going to have some major ramifications. And I think that's a really big deal. Now, I want to be clear. I know that on Sunday, officially you won't be able to get the app. If you've already got the app, you'll still be able to use it, but apparently it's going to time out and be such a hassle that you probably won't. So get ready for an uproar. I think we're going to be hearing a lot about this in the coming days. It seems like it's being used as a leverage tool. So whether TikTok comes back or not kind of depends on whether they're willing to deal with the Trump administration and abide by their terms. I think it's a pressure tactic. Not sure it's a smart one, but again, we're going to have to see how it plays out.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely going to be big. And like you said, on Sunday, once this starts rolling out to maybe a lot of the kids who are not paying attention to this, and all of a sudden it's not working, it is going to be a big deal out there. So if you're watching right now and you don't use TikTok, fine. You're still going to be affected by this. Absolutely. Everybody will be. So big thing. Well, I know we're out of time. Caleb, always great to see you. Thank you for being here for Tech Briefs. Appreciate it greatly. I'll talk to you soon.
Sounds great, Greg. Thanks a lot.
Caleb Dennison right here on Digital Trends Live. And again, hit subscribe to Tech Briefs as a podcast as well, wherever you get podcasts. You can hit subscribe to that, and we'll update you every week with what's going on. And we're out of time for this week, but I want to say, coming back next week, we've got some great interviews. Of course, we're going to have Drew Prindle, who will be back. And we've got Nuke Whiprecht, who we're going to be talking to her about fashion design and technology, and that's all coming up on Monday. And then we've got a whole week of programming and always keeping you up to date with everything that's going on in the world of technology. So follow along at digitaltrends.com. Hit subscribe. I'm Greg Nibbler. I'll see you next week with another edition of Digital Trends Live.